Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of Leadnap Gaming. It's all about exploration this week, but what exactly? I had set out initially to kick off a new set of fleet planning videos, since the ones we did previously don't cover ships that exist today that radically changed the landscape. Exploration made a good first start to announce changes to our Odyssey giveaway. Make sure to subscribe now for a chance to win, and we'll talk about that in the show in a few. But setting out to talk about the best exploration fleet drove me to a roadblock: exploration itself. Now, the obvious is that it really isn't fleshed out gameplay yet. We still only have one system. What is there to explore exactly anyways? Yada yada yada. That isn't what we're talking about today, though. Instead, there's a looming larger problem out there, one that's a little harder to tangibly break down but seems pretty clear at the onset. In short, you shouldn't need an ideal exploration fleet, and yet, the way the game's going, you'll definitely need one. Confused yet? Let's step away from CIG for a moment and talk just space exploration theory. The ideal exploration ship should obviously have suitable living space and life support facilities. Everything from room and board, but medical facilities too. Next, you'll need exploration equipment itself, long-range scanners, drones probably, for expanding the search without sending people into potentially dangerous situations, and having a smaller craft aboard to dispatch is also pretty ideal. Then you have to support that vessel, repair shops, long-endurance engines, you get the idea. So, some other things that are missing from, say, the Carrack: chiefly a fuel refinery to ensure you can go beyond space that's easily explored by just about anyone, and also a source of food generation and potentially equipment fabrication. So by now, aside from those last points, you're thinking what we always have. The Carrack is a solid exploration vessel. The Odyssey should be solid as well, though it lacks some of the scanning ability and lacks at present any of those repair and supporting spaces. It's not yet in game though, and those are easy add-ons. The Endeavor, then, is the master tier explorer, also not in game and not scheduled for release until after the release. We get it, lad. You don't need a fleet because you just grabbed yourself an Odyssey or an Endeavor with the relevant modules. Well, hold on to that notion for a second. If that's the case, then yeah, why buy a Freelancer Dur or the 600i? Drake Corsair, any of the smaller other exploration ships. The core answer already exists in a sense from CIG, with the Odyssey as a solid example. The Carrack is a jump point scanner. It has advanced sensors and drones to send off into them. Well, the Odyssey is more of a prospecting ship, if only they could have named it that, and one that industrial explorers use to go find deposits. Never mind the whole it only mines Quantanium thing for now. CIG has given us a variety of exploration ships because they're all intended to do different types of exploration. The Corsair is more of a go explore the planet's surface explorer, and the 600i is an exploration ship for the rich, to go see the things, but not really science. None of these are really the Starship Enterprise, are they? So by now we've established that there's no one best exploration ship, because it turns out you need the ideal explorer for what it is you plan to explore. And we'll quickly knock out of the way that if you know what you're exploring, are you really exploring it? Anyways, regardless, this means CIG has broken exploration into silos. You have various exploration ships that do various exploration tasks, with the only outlier being the Endeavor, which is one of the first ships released into the game and won't actually be released until after the game has. Nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, it brings us full circle to needing that exploration fleet after all. Great! So obviously you need a Carrack to go find the jump points in the planets. Next we'll need a Reliant to go to the planet and determine the chemistry and biological makeup to determine if further exploration is needed or even possible. Pin in that. Next we'll need a 600i or a Corsair to explore the planet's surface, and probably an Odyssey too to determine the profitability as far as resource exploitation. Now back to that pin. The Reliant won't bloody fit in the Carrack, and there's only 2 ships in the game today that have science capability, with the other being the Endeavor. CIG could fix this with modules, since the Carrack was in concept supposed to be able to swap the cargo boxes for modular boxes, giving us potentially a fuel refinery and a science lab. Of course, the Carrack has a monster cargo capacity to store food for a long journey, something the Odyssey doesn't have. But if you can swap one of those modules out for a farm pod, I guess problem solved. This, of course, means the Carrack then is back on par with the Endeavour. No problem. But then the Odyssey becomes as useful as the Dur. The irony is they're both made by MISC. The fleet then? Well, the Odyssey could carry the Reliant, so you just buy the jump points from those Carrack-only owners, I guess. That does help you on the science aspect, but that's pretty niche, and really a bold explorer would just take samples and bring them back home to check out in their Reliant anyways. I mean, unless you needed them to know if you could even go on the planet. Which you could use drones for, I guess. Yeah. But then again, you can't find jump points with any of these except the Carrack. And if you can, well then, no real reason to own a Carrack with its much tinier hangar. So we hit the block again. Is exploration siloed, or are you supposed to be able to take the one ship that'll rule them all? We don't have to get stuck on that, though. There's a larger looming problem. Crew. Best estimate for the Carrack and Odyssey is a skeleton crew of 3. Since only dedicated fuel ships can refuel other ships, a Starfarer is probably going to have to join the fleet. Of course, that's a crew of 2, though I suppose you could just park in space and refuel as the pilot. The Dur might be able to go the distance, but unless you can refuel the Carrack with it, might as well leave that behind. But you'll certainly want a Carrack or an Odyssey to bring a snub along. Of course, if you just used a Liberator, you could just bring the Reliant, which would act as the snub too, as a bonus. Just drive vehicles right off it. Then again, bringing the Dur along might allow you to refuel those ships in your Liberator. I digress. The problem with an exploration fleet is again in the manpower. You have to have someone flying each vessel you bring out, and for every vessel you bring, you have to support it with even more vessels. This model would be fine in a game where each player operated each ship individually. It forces players to work together to explore, which is a goal in Star Citizen's development. But Star Citizen seems torn between requiring you to work together on a single ship, or work multiple ships together. That really is the roadblock. When people imagine space exploration, they imagine Star Trek. We're going to take a ship out into the expanse, looking for loot and glory. Game balance, however, or at least we'll give CIG the benefit of the doubt that it is the reason, prevents that. The Carrack can't do it all, because you would just use a Carrack for everything if it could. No need to build a fleet then, but an exploration fleet has to sail together. And CIG hasn't delivered ships capable of doing so. When I talk about fleet planning for, say, a cargo fleet, the idea is to have versatility in what you can carry and how you carry it. Exploration is different. Explorers in Star Citizen will be the nullsec residents of Eve, people who may not return to civilized space for months. The fleet has to go with them because you can't fly into the void for an IRL month, find a planet, and then fly all the way back home to port to change ships to go back and explore it. The only way that works, the way it would feel we're moving, is that explorers are specialists. No one gets to be Magellan in the 2950s, which is unfortunate, because the biggest and most expensive ships are sold on the idea that you can be. And on that note, let's talk about winning one of those big expensive ships. It's been a wild year on the channel, and while the 20,000 sub goal is on par with the growth I had going into the start of the year, it isn't fair to you, the viewers, who've been participating. So new goal, new plan. If the channel hits 15,000 subscribers by the start of the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, I'll raffle off the Odyssey during an IAE livestream. If we hit 15.5, which is 1,000 subs from now, I'll throw in something else to viewers of the livestream. Otherwise, everything's pretty much the same as it was. Each month, I'll pull names from the comments, and those names will be the ones drawn from for the grand prize. I've been keeping a running list of all those names all these months, and I'll be publishing that so that you can find out if you're on it. Otherwise, make sure to subscribe and comment for a chance to win. The kind of summary, then, the exploration issue, is we imagine our exploration ships to be like Star Trek. We imagine that we're going to get a bunch of our friends together on this one ship that really goes out and does it all. We're going to go find new planets, explore them, name mountains after ourselves, come back, sell the information about what's there to people that want to go mine it, how to get jump points out to it, so on and so forth, right? And that CIG is not going to do that, is going to make us do that with a fleet, wouldn't be a problem, except the supporting vessels you have to take don't have the legs to get you there with the Carrack or with the Odyssey, right? Or even the Dur in this case, which can get there, but it can't do anything else. That's the core problem we've run into in trying to design this fleet. You couldn't have a fleet that sails together on the exploration, and that's what you would need. So I'm curious to see how exploration really turns out in Star Citizen. It is, after all, one of my favorite game loops and something I look forward to doing. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are, and if you're unsure, just feel free to say what you think the best exploration ship is and why. Share this with your friends, like and subscribe if you haven't, and I will catch you all next time.